Welcome back to Sip and Talk. Glad you could join us.
Good to be here.
So today we're getting into something pretty major that just went down in Taiwan.
Yeah.
You know, democracy is always evolving, and sometimes these moments just give you incredible insights.
That's absolutely right. We're focusing on the Great Recall attempt. Happened July 26th, 2025.
Right.
And this wasn't like a minor thing. It targeted a huge number, 24 legislators from the KMT, the Kuomintang.
24. Wow.
Yeah, seriously. One of Taiwan's biggest recall actions like ever attempted. Just imagine that 24 sitting lawmakers potentially getting the boot. The scale was just ambitious.
Ambitious is one word for it. It kind of makes you wonder, first, how did they even organize against that? And then the big question we're tackling today, why did this massive effort, fail? Why did it fall short?
Exactly.
That's what we want to unpack. What can we learn from this? You know, about political alliances, what the public is really thinking, and just how these democratic pressure points actually work. So we'll get into the reasons it failed, look at the different political viewpoints, and try to pull out some key lessons for understanding modern democracy.
Yeah, it's really a fascinating case study in political strategy and public opinion. Lots to learn.
Okay, so let's start digging in. One of maybe the clearest reasons this recall didn't succeed was this thing called the blue-white power play. Sounds strategic, right?
Oh, it definitely was. And what's really interesting is how this unlikely alliance came together. You had the KMT, the blue camp, right?
Right, the blues.
And they joined forces with the Taiwan People's Party, the TPP, the white camp.
Oh, okay.
They formed this blue-white alliance specifically to fight the recall. And it wasn't just talk. We saw them campaigning together, holding joint rallies, lots of high-level coordinated activity. It was a real united front.
And that must have changed the numbers game significantly.
Absolutely. It basically created this 1-against-2 situation for the Green Camp, the DPP. Think about it. The Green Camp usually pulls, around 40% maybe?
Roughly, yeah.
But the Blue Camp's got about 30%, and the White Camp adds another, say, 20%. So together, blue and white could actually outweigh the Greens in quite a few key districts.
Especially in a recall where turnout isn't always predictable.
Exactly. So that strong, unified counter-mobilization from the KMT and TPP, it was undeniably crucial. It really took the wind out of the recall's sails early on. Okay,
so the alliance was a huge factor. But it wasn't just brute force, was it? You mentioned messaging, too. The KMT seemed pretty savvy there.
Oh, incredibly savvy. They had a masterful messaging strategy. They really controlled the narrative.
Oh, so what was their main angle?
Well, they very successfully branded the whole recall movement as malicious. That was the key word.
Malicious, okay.
Their argument was basically, look, we just had an election last year. The voters spoke. This recall, it's disrespectful. It's trying to overturn the democratic will.
Right, playing the respect the results card.
Exactly. And they were really active in pushing back against accusations like being pro-China or, legislative misconduct. They painted themselves as victims of a political attack.
And I guess that kind of framing could really appeal to moderate voters, maybe, people who aren't strongly aligned.
Precisely. It likely convinced a lot of moderates that this recall wasn't really about legitimate oversight, but more about political interference, like disrupting the process.
So by questioning the motive behind it all.
Yeah, they managed to dampen the broad public support for it. It shows you how powerful framing and narrative control can be.
Okay, that makes sense. Which brings us to maybe the most critical point. The voters themselves, what were they thinking? Beyond the campaigns and the spin.
Right. At the end of the day, it comes down to the ballot box.
Despite all the noise, all the activism, it seems the support just wasn't there in sufficient numbers. The majority who actually voted chose not to recall the legislators.
That's the bottom line. And if you look at the polls from before July 16th, polls were banned after that date.
Right. The blackout period.
Yeah. So the earlier polls, they kind of told this story already, like the Taiwan Public Opinion Foundation, TPOF, in early July. They found 48% opposed the recall versus 42% who supported it.
So opposition was already leading.
It was. And TVBS, way back in February, had opposition at 44% and support at only 31%. Beautiful Island e-newspaper also consistently showed opposition winning out. In February, they reported like 56.8% saw the recall doing more harm than good.
Wow, that's a pretty clear trend. What about independent voters, the ones not tied to any party?
That's really telling, too. Zendian media, for example, showed among unaligned voters, opposition was huge, 52.9% against the recall, with only 17.3% supporting it.
Okay, so this wasn't just partisan lines. It suggests something broader, maybe a public weariness with this kind of large-scale political fight.
I think so. It suggests a feeling that maybe this was just too much, too disruptive. There was also this interesting concept floating around, especially on forums like PTT, about the recall having low CP value.
Low CP value, like cost performance, bang for your buck.
Exactly. Like voters asking, is this whole massive effort really worth it? What's the return on this political investment?
Huh. That's a very practical way to look at it.
Yeah.
So what were the specifics? Why low value?
Well, you heard things like just practical thoughts. Look, let them serve their 4 years anyway. Or maybe thinking about the KMT's local policies that people liked, fiscal stuff.
Okay.
And you can't ignore that universal 10,000 NT dollar payout the KMT had pushed for. That probably factored in for some.
Sure, money talks.
But a really big one was the feeling that the recall was just a waste of resources. The estimated cost was around 1.6 billion NT dollars.
Oof. That's about, what, 40 million pounds? 50 million US dollars? That's a lot of public money.
It's a huge chunk of change, and taxpayers might look at that and think, wait, this could be going to schools, roads, healthcare. Instead, it's funding another political battle. That definitely causes hesitation.
Yeah, I can see how that waste of resources argument would hit home for a lot of people.
It does. And, there seemed to be a general agreement that, yeah, democracy needs checks and balances, but maybe not through constant, massive recall campaigns. It raises the question, were the actual reasons given for the recall, pro-China stuff, the alleged misbehavior, were they compelling enough for the average voter? Especially with the KMT denying it all so strongly.
The outcome suggests maybe not compelling enough for a majority.
Seems that way.
Okay, so that covers a lot of the domestic picture. But Taiwan's never just domestic, is it? We have to talk about the China factor. Beijing weighed in, right?
Oh, yeah. Official Chinese media, the Taiwan Affairs Office. They were openly supporting the KMT's anti-recall position. They even criticized the DPP, the Green Camp, for, quote, abusing democracy.
Wow. How much noise were they making?
A lot, actually. Reports indicate something like 425 pieces of content from Chinese state media just in the 6 months leading up to the vote, all pushing the anti-recall narrative.
425. That's a very concentrated effort.
It is. It shows how closely they were watching and trying to influence things.
But couldn't that kind of heavy-handed support from Beijing actually backfire? Make Taiwanese voters more determined to resist interference, especially those who really value autonomy?
That's the really complex part. It probably cut both ways. For the KMT, maybe they saw it as validation. Like, see, even Beijing thinks the DPP is going too far. It could shore up their base.
Okay, I see that angle.
But for the DPP and their supporters, it was Exhibit A of direct interference in Taiwan's democracy. They'd use it as a warning sign. Look who supports the KMT's position. It could actually increase awareness about autonomy and potentially motivate their own voters.
So one side's validation is the other side's proof of interference. Classic geopolitics.
Pretty much. Using external narratives to fight domestic battles.
So let's talk ripple effects. This recall failed. What does that mean for Taiwan's politics going forward?
Well, first off, the KMT and TPP keep their majority in the legislature, so you can probably expect, more confrontation, more gridlock, maybe.
Making it harder for the current DPP administration to get things done.
Definitely. It also raises bigger questions about the recall system itself. Is it becoming just another tool for political fighting? Could overuse actually undermine stability and the rule of law?
That's a serious concern.
And sadly, this whole episode probably just deepened the existing political divisions in Taiwan.
Yeah, more fuel on the fire, like we said.
Yeah.
Now, what about this humility thing? After they won, the KMT was talking about humility and respecting public opinion. Strategic move.
Oh, absolutely strategic. Very calculated. It's a way to signal to the DPP, hey, the voters saw through your recall attempt. And it helps them appeal to those moderate and TPP-leaning voters they need.
Like a soft power move after the hard power fight.
Kind of. Claim victory, but sound gracious. Don't look like you're gloating. It's classic political maneuvering.
And I bet the pro-recall sites saw that humility very differently.
You bet they did. From their perspective, it was just strategic softening, a way to paper over the aggressive campaign they ran against the recall.
Right.
Their argument is, look, just because we lost doesn't mean the reasons for the recall were wrong. They point fingers at the high threshold needed to actually recall someone and just how hard it is to mobilize voters across party lines for something like this.
So their focus shifts more towards changing the rule.
Exactly. They talk about needing institutional reform and continuing to fight against what they call parliamentary majority violence, basically. The KMT-TPP bloc using its numbers aggressively. It becomes a call for systemic change, not just winning the next battle.
So thinking bigger picture then, was this whole thing futile? Did it achieve anything even if it failed legally? Did it tell us something about public opinion?
I wouldn't say futile. While it didn't change the power balance in the legislature, it definitely succeeded in forcing a public conversation about important issues, like China's influence, legislative behavior.
Okay, so it raised awareness.
Yeah, you could see it as a big, real-world democratic experiment. And the result, it reflected a pretty divided public, honestly. The pro-recall folks were super engaged, very passionate, but the overall majority, they voted against it. It suggests a really nuanced public opinion. You know, people want oversight, sure, but they also really value stability.
Not a simple message then. It's layered.
Very layered.
Let's talk about that threshold you mentioned. How hard is it to recall someone in Taiwan compared to other places?
It's actually pretty tough. Taiwan has a relatively high threshold. It's not just about getting more yes votes than no votes.
Okay.
The crucial part is the number of yes votes also has to be at least 1/4, 25% of the total eligible voters in that district.
1/4 of all eligible voters, not just those who show up.
Right. That's a significantly higher bar than just a simple majority of those who vote.
Wow. How does that compare globally? Like the U.S.?
Well, in some U.S. states, recalls can happen with just a simple majority of the votes cast. Think about the California governor recall back in 2003. Taiwan's 25% electorate requirement makes it much harder.
So it's designed to be difficult.
It seems so. It reflects a choice, probably, to prioritize political stability and prevent recalls from becoming too frequent or too easy, just based on temporary outrage or political maneuvering. It's a balance between citizen power and stable governance.
That makes sense. A built-in brake mechanism.
Yeah.
Okay, so reflecting on this whole experience, this great recall, what are the main takeaways? If we had to boil it down to, say, 6 core lessons.
Okay, 6 lessons. Let's try. First, structural power matters. The underlying voter patterns, the party loyalties, that often outweighs even really loud calls for change.
Right. The fundamentals. Lesson 2.
Second, rationality over emotion, maybe. Or at least the perception of rationality. Recalls that seem overly broad, overly political, without super clear, specific evidence of wrongdoing. They can backfire. Voters want substance.
Got it. Third,
organization is key. Citizen movements, however passionate, really need strong organization and mobilization muscle to actually compete with established parties and their resources, their ground game.
makes sense. Number 4.
Fourth, institutional design. The rules of the game, like that high recall threshold, they aren't neutral. They shape the outcomes profoundly.
The rules matter. Fifth,
this was a huge democratic education moment, like a real-world civics lesson for everyone on how recalls work, the limits, the responsibilities involved in democracy.
learning by doing or watching others do.
And 6.
Then the 6th, I'd say interference awareness. It's maybe ironic, but sometimes seeing obvious external attempts to meddle in your democracy can actually strengthen people's resolve to make their own decisions. It can backfire on the interferer.
Don't tread on me, basically. Okay, those are 6 solid lessons. What about takeaways for the parties themselves? What should, say, the DPP learn? For the DPP, probably a need to strategize better. Blend their media messaging, the air war, more effectively with actual grassroots work, the ground war. And they need to be careful not to look like they're just seeking political revenge.
And the KMT.
KMT should probably think about their international image, especially that China connection. Maybe focus more on framing things around Taiwan's national interest and democratic stability, particularly for global audiences.
And the TPP, the third party.
TPP has a tricky balancing act. They need to carefully navigate being between the big two, maintain that third force identity without getting squeezed or just looking like KMT light.
A tough spot. So if there's one big warning sign coming out of all this for Taiwan's democracy, what is it?
I think the biggest warning is that Taiwan needs to find a way beyond this cycle of just political antagonism, leading to recall attempts, leading to by-elections, leading back to more antagonism.
Yeah, that sounds exhausting and unproductive.
Right. The focus really needs to shift to actual policy debates, to strengthening the democratic institutions themselves. Because at the end of the day, voters are not fools. They want effective governance, not just endless political fights.
That's a really crucial point. Voters are not fools. So, summing up this great recall, it didn't achieve its main goal, didn't unseat anyone. But it wasn't meaningless either.
Definitely not.
It sent complex signals, right? About voters wanting stability and accountability. It's kind of a call for maybe a better quality of democratic debate, not just political warfare.
Exactly. It's just democracy is this living thing, always being tested, always learning. These moments, even the failures, are part of that learning process.
It's a continuous journey, like you said earlier. Public expression, correction, trying again.
Precisely.
Well, if you enjoyed this Sip and Talk exploration today, definitely hit that subscribe button. We dig into complex stuff like this regularly, trying to make sense of it all.
Hope it was useful.
And hey, a special shout out today to our old friend Mickey over at his YouTube channel, Mickey to Life.
Mickey.
Yeah, he's got fun stuff, memes, music, wine tasting, travel vlogs. Check him out. He actually told us he went out to vote in this recall, even filmed a little video for us.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he said, you know, even though the result wasn't what he personally hoped for, he totally respects Taiwan's democratic process. His view is kind of like we were just saying, it's all part of this ongoing expression and correction. Got to respect that.
Absolutely. That's the spirit.
And just a reminder, here at Sip and Talk, we always aim for objective, fact-based discussion. We report on different views, but we don't take sides or criticize any group or nation. It's all about independent thinking.
You're here.
Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next Sip and Talk.